Hello guys and welcome back to TechWolf, and today we are going to do again another video on CompTIA A Core 2 practice exam or practice test, you can call it however you want, and we will continue where we left off in last video. And if you are interested in more CompTIA A Core 2 or any other certification practice exams or practice tests, go to the channel's homepage where you will find many more playlists. And today we again will be using Skill Test Pro, and we will start from question 51 on this particular practice exam or practice test. And first question is: a user is unable to access corporate VPN from their laptop unless they first manually connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot. What might be wrong and how do you fix it? The VPN client is misconfigured or reconfigured to connect over any network. The hotspot has a captive portal. The hotspot has a captive portal. Accept the portal before VPN. The Wi-Fi profile is set to connect only when in range. Set it to connect automatically. The Ethernet adapter priority is higher than Wi-Fi. Change the metric. The laptop's firewall is blocking the VPN. Disable the firewall. So which one would be the correct answer here? And the correct answer is, if you have chosen also, the Wi-Fi profile is set to connect only when in range. So we need to set it to connect automatically. And explanation is: operational procedures include user, and by the way these are like CompTIA A Core 2 exam objectives, and one of the exam objectives is operational procedures, and it includes user support and networking. In Wi-Fi doesn't auto connect. If Wi-Fi doesn't auto connect, the VPN client won't have network to route through. Changing the Wi-Fi profile to auto connect ensures that when the user arrives in range or in network or Wi-Fi range, the laptop connects and then the VPN can start. The captive portal is possible, but it always works after manual connect. It's likely a profile setting. And by the way, if you are interested in more like questions, doing these practice tests for yourself, like I mentioned, whenever I was doing these CompTIA network and tech and all these other certifications, I was doing minimum 1000 questions myself with real practice tests, because this gets you ready for real exam. Because in real exam you will also have, like in Tech Plus, there is 70 questions. In CompTIA A or A Core 1 and Core 2 there are about 85 questions, it including PBQs or practice-based questions. And the best way to study is actually to learn the subjects and then go through practice tests, because in practice tests there is everything in the mix. All these exam objectives are in the mix. Okay guys, let's continue with next question. A desktop user's profile is corrupted. They cannot log in, but a temporary profile is loaded instead. What is the root cause and what should the technician do? The user's password is expired. Reset the password. The profile's ntuser.dat file is corrupt. Rename the corrupt profile and let Windows rebuild new one. Then migrate data. The disk is out of space. Clear up disk space and reboot. The registry is corrupted. Restore registry from backup. The system is infected. Scan for malware. So which one would be the correct answer? And here the correct answer is the profile's ntuser.dat file is corrupt. And this is also software troubleshooting. In CompTIA A Core 2 you should also be aware of software troubleshooting. Corrupted user profiles often stem from a broken ntuser.dat in the user profile folder. By renaming or removing the problematic profile, Windows will create a new profile. Then you can migrate the user's important files. Checking for malware or disk space is valid, but not as directly tied to profile corruption. And a user reports that on their Windows 11 machine, certain applications launch but immediately close with no error message. Event Viewer shows an access denied error for C: /program files. What is the best resolution? Disable UAC or user account control, run the application as administrator permanently, reinstall the apps in a folder outside program files, e.g. D apps, fix NTFS permissions on program files so the user has read execute, or disable Windows Defender. Which one would be the correct answer here? And here, obvious and correct answer is fix NTFS permissions on program files so the user has read execute rights. The software troubleshooting domain. So here we are talking about in troubleshooting domain for Core 2 on exam objectives includes permission problems and permission problem solving. If program files has incorrect permissions, non-admin users may be blocked from executing programs. Restoring correct NTFS permissions resolves the issue safely. Disabling UAC or user account control, Defender compromises security. Moving apps is less ideal. And next question, a user Windows PC shows blue screen of death or BSOD with stop code of IRQL underscore not underscore less underscore or underscore equal when inserting a new USB peripheral. What should the technician do first? So this error code appears whenever you insert anything or any device or anything which is using USB. So what the technician do first? Replace the CPU, update or roll back the USB driver, run SFC scan now, reinstall Windows or disable antivirus. And here the correct answer is update or roll back the USB driver, as drivers are those softwares which are responsible for all these hardware components on our PCs. And this stop code often indicates a faulty or incompatible driver, in this case likely USB driver. The Core 2 exam objective covers software troubleshooting and error codes updating or rolling back fixes the instability without drastic OS reinstallation. And this question is directly related to software troubleshooting and error codes, which you should also know for CompTIA A+ Core 2 exam. And by the way, this is very crucial because now with this year's CompTIA A+ Core 2, like this is much harder than those exams which were in previous years. Now they pay more attention in depth, so you know not only like simple softwares which are on your PC, but you should also know different like codes which are being displayed whenever some errors are happening, so you are able to identify the problem or the cause also by these codes. Like it also says here, the Core 2 exam objective covers software troubleshooting and error codes. So this is exam objective. In software troubleshooting, you should also be aware of error codes. And next one, a technician deploys a shared folder on Windows 11 server for a team. After setting share permissions, some team members still cannot write to it even though NTFS permissions allow full control. What is likely problem? The network cable is faulty. The folder is encrypted with EFS. The folder has reached its storage quota. The share level permissions are set read-only for those users, or the SSD has failed, or solid-state drive has failed. So, which one would be the correct answer? And here the correct answer is the share level permissions are set to read-only for those users. And here again they are telling that this is software troubleshooting question, and these are operating system concepts which include understanding of NTFS with shared permissions. This is also exam objective of Core 2, and explanation for this is even if NTFS permissions allow full control, restrictive share permissions, e.g. read only, will block write access. And you should also know these accesses like read, write, execute, and so on and so forth. You should also be aware of them for CompTIA A Core 2. The fix is to adjust the permissions appropriately. Next question. A developer workstation runs Windows 11 and Linux dual boot via grub. The user complains that after a Windows update, grub menu no longer appears. What likely happened and how to fix it? And you should also be aware, or you should also know what is grub and what is the main purpose of the grub. If you haven't studied it, also go ahead guys and study and understand what it is. And the answer options are: the update install the new Linux kernel, boot into recovery and reinstall grub, the BIOS boot order was changed, set the Linux UEFI entry first in UEFI settings, fast startup disable grub, fast startup disabled grub, turn it off in Windows, secure boot was enabled, disable secure boot, the Windows update corrupted the UEFI partition, recover from backup. So recover that partition from backup. And here the correct answer is the BIOS boot order was changed. We need to set the Linux UEFI entry first in UEFI settings. And actually need to click it. And explanation, this is also operating system upgrade and boot issues which are also covered in Core 2 objectives. A common issue is that Windows updates rewrite the default UEFI boot entry, making Windows boot first and bypassing grub. Reordering the UEFI boot entries so that Linux UEFI entry comes first restores the grub. And next question. A company issues a mobile device to field workers. One user complains that the sensitive corporate email remains on their device after they leave employment. What security control should have been in place? A strong passcode, VPN-only email access, a remote wipe capability via MDM or mobile device management. You also should know all these shortcuts for Core 2, which is MDM, MAM, and so on and so forth. Email caching disabled or biometric lock only. And correct answer here is remote wipe capability via MDM. And operational procedures. Objectives include like device policies, MDM, or mobile device management and data removal. With MDM, you can remotely wipe devices when someone leaves, preventing data leakage. Passcodes alone don't remove data. VPN only protects in transit. Caching disabled may help, but doesn't remove existing data. A user's PC joined to a corporate domain. They report they cannot open some shared network folders which they previously could. Their account is unchanged. What is the most likely cause? The network share has moved to a different server. Their computer's operating system or OS is corrupted. We need to reinstall Windows. The VPN is not connected. Their Windows license has expired or is expired. Their domain account lost necessary NTFS share permissions. So, which one is the correct answer here? And here the correct answer is that their domain account lost necessary NTFS share permissions. Yes, this is correct. And by the way, I am doing this also with you guys. So I also have to think sometimes when I'm answering this question also with you here. So access control core, this is access control. This is exam objective also on access control on Core 2 security is critical objective. Permissions issues are common cause of access loss. The user's permissions may have been changed. It's less likely to be operating system corruption or license expiry. And if network share had moved, many users would complain, not just this one, or not just this user who is complaining. A financial department user complains about repeated pop-up warnings from Windows Defender that their disk is full, even though they have plenty of free space. So he is complaining that his disk is full, however, there's enough space on his disk. The warning mentions insufficient space for temporary files. Again, we are talking about these pop-ups or about these notices which could come up or warnings. As you see, this particular is insufficient space for temporary files. However, user have enough space on his device. What's causing this and how do you fix it? And this is also straightforward, but let's read through the questions and then I will give you the correct answer, or you tell the correct answer. The temp and TMP environment variables are misconfigured. Windows Defender is misreporting. Reinstall it, so we need to reinstall it. The paging file is too small. Increase the page file size. The OS is corrupted, or operating system is corrupted. Repair install Windows. The user browser cache is full, and we need to clear browser cache. So which one would be the correct answer here? And the correct answer is very first one. The temp and TMP environment variables are misconfigured. As Defender or other system processes use temp folders heavily. If the environment variables point to a partition with low free space, Windows may raise false disk full for temporary file warnings. So these variables could point it to the wrong space, or for example to only one space rather than seeing all disks. And that's why redirecting temp TMP to a drive with more space solves this without reinstalling, so we wouldn't need to reinstall anything. A user calls after clicking a link in an email that looked suspicious. They immediately entered their login credentials but closed the window afterward. What steps should you take next to ensure company security? As you can see, a user calls after clicking a link. So user has clicked a link in an email that looked suspicious. And what they did is they immediately entered their login credentials but closed the window afterward. What steps should you, as a technician, take next to ensure company security? Ignore it, since no damage is reported. Change the user's password and run a full anti-malware scan. Reinstall Windows, disable the user's account permanently, clear browser history and cache. And here we see that user, what he did before even he closed the window, he managed to immediately enter their login credentials. So this happens with many of us automatically when we see the familiar screen, and then we might realize, oh, we have done something wrong, but it doesn't really say whether he pressed the submit button to send those credentials to whatever database was there. So what we would do first in this particular scenario, if we would hear this from a user and if we would be a technician of the company. And here the correct answer is that first, to make 100% sure, because we don't know that user have pressed submit button and he submitted his credentials to that particular suspicious looked page, or he didn't, so we would simply straight away change all his credentials. So the correct answer here is we would change the user's password and run full anti-malware scan on his particular device to see where this page came from, and so as well as we would not make sure that the user's credentials haven't been shared, or if they even have been shared, they are now changed, and whoever got them, they wouldn't be able to attack our system or enter or see log in as that user or log in as that particular user. As you see, incident response and chain of custody are in the core 2 objectives, and this is the question which is testing your knowledge exactly about this, where the technician must assume credentials are compromised. So we as a technician company, we must assume that user have actually shared, and even if he closed the window, maybe he clicked the submit button on that particular page, and if he did, then his credentials were sent to scammer or hacker or whoever was their database. So it was pretty much shared. So we must assume that credentials were compromised. So first thing, we change them. So reset the password. So we would straight away reset the password of the user and scan for malware all user device. Simply clearing cache doesn't mitigate risk, and reinstalling or disabling account is overkill without further evidence. And next question, a user complains they can't install a licensed software package on their macOS machine because of licensing restrictions. The software requires volume licensing and the user is using a personal Apple ID. What should the technician do? Ask the user to purchase a personal license. Use Apple Business Management to assign the volume license to the computer. Use Time Machine to roll back macOS to an earlier version. Create a generic Apple ID and install via that. Partition the drive and install a different OS or operating system. So, what would be the correct answer here? And here, the correct answer is that we would use Apple Business Manager to assign the volume license to the computer. And this is our operational procedures. Again, question related to operational procedures, exam objectives of Core 2. And here we can see the domain includes licensing, EULA and volume licensing. For macOS in business environments, volume license software is distributed via Apple Business Manager or similar tools. Mapping licenses to devices, not individual app IDs. Rolling back operating system or changing operating system is unnecessary. Asking to buy a personal license is less efficient. A help desk technician is asked to secure a set of laptops used by salespeople who travel. The laptop stores sensitive customer data. Which of the following is the best combination to secure data at rest and in transit? So also here you need to know data at rest, in transit. So what we would use is use BitLocker on the drivers and enforce HTTPS only connections. Use strong password and VPN in transit. Use TPM without BitLocker and require VPN. Encrypt only the home folder and restrict web browsing to secure sites, or use EFS encrypting file system with password only protection. And here the correct answer is use BitLocker on the drives and enforce HTTPS only connections. As Core 2 security objectives include data encryption and secure communications. This is also on exam objectives, and the explanation is that BitLocker provides full disk encryption, and this is what you should know. Obviously, even from, I believe, from the Core 1 exam, you should know that BitLocker main purpose is to encrypt full disk or provide full disk encryption, protects data at rest. So full disk, this means data at rest, it tells you pretty much here. Well, enforcing HTTPS ensures encrypted data in transit. TPM only without BitLocker doesn't encrypt data. EFS is less full coverage than BitLocker. Password only is weaker. And next question. An employee Windows machine has been infected by a ransomware variant that encrypted many files. So, some ransomware encrypted our many files. Their organization has offline backups, but these are too weeks old. After restoring the backup, the user still sees encrypted files in a shared network folder. What should the technician do? Inform the user the encrypted files cannot be recovered. Run anti-malware software across the network share to decrypt the files. Delete the encrypted files. Recopy from the backup and monitor for reinfection. Ask the user to pay the ransom. Restore from a different backup and disable network sharing. So which one would be the correct answer here? And here the correct answer would be that delete encrypted files, recopy the backup and monitor for reinfection. So the security objectives include malware removal, backup strategies and incident response. Since you have a clean backup, restoring from backup is correct, but the presence of encrypted files in a shared folder suggests potential reinfection or that the ransomware also reached the share. Deleting the encrypted files and restoring from clean backup, then closely monitoring ensuring integrity. Paying ransom is not the best price. Running anti-malware likely won't decrypt. Alternate backups may not be more current. A company wants to enforce multi-factor authentication or MFA on all its workstations. One user complains that after enabling MFA, they are constantly locked out because their phone is offline. What's the best solution to maintain security while improving the user experience? Disable MFA for that user. Use hardware token, e.g. YubiKey, as a second factor. Rely only on SMS-based MFA or multi-factor authentication. Lower the MFA enforcement policy to only on password change. Use a cloud-based identity provider with offline code generation. And here the correct answer is use a cloud-based identity provider or identity provider with offline code generation. And here again, objectives include authentication methods. Switch to an authenticator app that supports time-based one-time passwords. TOTP works even when the phone is offline. This retains strong security without disabling MFA or weakening policy. Hardware tokens are valid but less user-friendly and more costly. A remote user calls complaining that their Windows PC's antivirus continually blocks a legitimate internal business application. They say it worked fine before a recent security update. What should the technician do first? Uninstall the antivirus, reinstall the business app, then re-enable antivirus. Or downgrade the antivirus to its pre-updated version, or disable real-time scanning permanently, or add the business app executable to the antivirus exclusion list, or report the issue to the application vendor and wait for a patch. And here the correct answer is to add the business apps executable to the antivirus exclusion list, as this is also telling us what's an exam objective. Security domain of Core 2 includes understanding exceptions and exclusions, and if a legitimate business app is being blocked post-update, the correct short-term fix is to create an exclusion so the AV stops interfering, while still maintaining protection for the rest of the system. Uninstalling or disabling the antivirus compromises security. Downgrading or waiting for a vendor patch may be risky or slow. Or you never know when that patch will be actually created. A Linux workstation in a development environment is refusing to boot after the root partition was resized. The system now drops into a grub rescue prompt. What is the most likely reason and resolution? The grub.svg file was lost. Restore from backup. UUIDs change when resizing or changed when resizing, update etc fstab and grub.cfg with correct UUIDs. The partition table was corrupted, run fsck to fix. The bootloader was overwritten, reinstall grub. The kernel version is incompatible, downgrade kernel. And here the correct answer is the UUIDs change when resizing, update etc fstab and grub.cfg with correct UUIDs. And when you resize Linux partitions, the file system's universal unique identifier may change or UUID may change. Grub and etc /fstab rely on UUIDs or universal unique identifiers, and mismatch causes grub rescue mode. Knowing operating system installation and configuration is critical per the A+ Core 2 objectives. Correcting the UUIDs in both places often resolves boot issues without reinstalling grub or the operating system. A user complains that their macOS laptop is running slowly after a recent upgrade. On inspection, you find that the APFS Apple file system volume is fragmented because of frequent large file edits. What can you recommend to improve performance? Reformat the disk as HFS Plus and migrate data. Enable trim and defragment the APFS volume. Create a separate image and move large files there. Use Time Machine to restore to a fresh APFS volume and limit large file edits. Or disable local snapshots. And here the correct answer is enable trim and defragment the APFS volume. Under the operating system objectives, knowledge of macOS file system APFS is required. APFS supports trim and SSDs, and occasionally fragmented large files can slow performance. Enabling trim helps the underlying SSD, and APFS includes its own defragmentation heuristics. Performing to the HFS Plus is counterproductive. Older file system, creating sparse image or disabling snapshots doesn't address fragmentation properly. A lab manager needs to deploy a customized Windows 11 image to 50 identical desktops. The customization includes pre-installed software, policies, and drivers. Which deployment method will minimize manual effort and maximize consistency? Manually install Windows on each desktop, then configure them on each one by one. Use System Restore on one machine, then copy its C drive to others. Use third-party cloning software via USB stick and clone each desktop. Ask each user to log in and run a PowerShell script to install everything. Use Windows Deployment Service (VDS) to push the customized image over the network. So which one would be the best option here? And logically, the best option is to use WDS or VDS, or how you call it. So use Windows Deployment Service to push the customized image over the network so we can get these updates to all machines. As the core 2 objectives include operating system installation, image deployment and upgrade considerations, and VDS or Windows Deployment Services enables a network-based deployment of a pre-configured Windows image, reducing manual work and ensuring uniform configuration across all machines. Cloning manually via USB is more error-prone and time-consuming. System restore and scripts are not as reliable for full driver software provisioning. A small business is upgrading a fleet of laptops from Windows 10 to Windows 11. One user's laptop uses custom application that only runs when installed on an NFT volume. The current user profile and data are on an exFAT external drive. What is the best approach to preserve the app functionality after upgrade? Install Windows 11 directly to the internal drive, ignore the exFAT data and reinstall the app. Convert the exFAT external disk to NTFS without data loss using convert utility. Copy the exFAT data to a network share, wipe the drive, install Windows 11, then copy back. Up-level the file system to REFS during Windows 11 upgrade, or leave the external drives as exFAT and run the app from there. So which is the correct answer here? And here the correct answer is to convert the exFAT external disk to NTFS without data loss using convert utility. Since the application depends on NTFS and the data is already on the exFAT drive, converting to NTFS preserves compatibility and avoids data loss. Using network share or reinstalling the app manually is more cumbersome, and the FS conversion isn't supported by the convert command. Running the app on exFAT would break it. And next question. A user reports that their Windows 11 PC slows down significantly during boot and many startup apps fail to load. Disk management shows that the system reserved partition is near full. What is the most likely cause and best fix? The system reserved partition is too small. Increase its size via disk management. Recovered partition is incorrectly identified as the system reserved. Reassign the partitions. The UEFI boot partition is full of old Windows boot entries. Clean up unused boot entries and BC-dead it. The page file is too small. Enlarge the page file to make space, or the BIOS is outdated. Update the BIOS to improve boot performance. And the correct answer here is the UEFI boot partition is full of old Windows boot entries, and we need to clean up unused boot entries with BC-dead it. As it is also here in explanation, this is also about operating system installation and boot method issues. This is about installation. When the UEFI or system reserved partition is filled with stale boot entries, it can prevent proper bootloader initialization. Using BC Edit to remove obsolete entries frees up space so the loader can correctly load startup apps. Simply resizing partitions is risky and may not address the root cause. Updating BIOS or page file doesn't resolve the clutter boot entries. And this is it for this practice video. If you found it useful, leave a like, guys, and like I mentioned, if you are interested in more of these questions, more of these examinations, I am creating many more videos on practice exams for CompTIA, for CCNA, for Microsoft, and many others are to come here on TechWolf channel. So go to the channel's homepage and check for playlists of other or for this practice exams. And if you found it useful, leave a like and see you in the next one.
Hey, future IT pros, welcome to the video. Let's be real here. If you want to pass the CompTIA A Core 2 exam, you need more than just reading and review. You need reps. Most successful candidates go through 600 to 1,000 practice questions before sitting for the real exam. That's how you build confidence, speed, and accuracy. So, in this video, we're going to be diving into another set of Core 2 practice questions using Skill Test Pro, one of the best platforms that's out there for realistic exam-style challenges. Let's get into it and keep stacking those wins. First question's coming up. All right, here we go. A user wants to schedule a task to run automatically at a specific time. Which Windows utility should be used? Event Viewer, Task Manager, Task Scheduler, Services, or Control Panel? The correct answer is Task Scheduler. Task Scheduler allows users to create and manage tasks that run automatically at specified times or when specific conditions are met. All right, next question. Which command is used to test network connectivity to a specific host? ipconfig, ping, netstat, tracer, or ARP? The correct answer is ping. The ping command sends ICMP echo requests to test connectivity and measure response time to a host. All right, next question. What is the purpose of the Windows hosts file? Store user passwords, configure network adapters, map host names to IP addresses, configure Windows services, or store system logs? The correct answer is map host names to IP addresses. The hosts file maps host names to IP addresses locally before DNS resolution is attempted. All right, next question. Which Windows feature prevents unauthorized changes to system files and settings? User account control, BitLocker, Windows Defender, Windows Firewall, or System Restore? The correct answer is user account control. User account control, or UAC, prompts for permission before allowing changes that could affect system security. All right, next question. A technician needs to remotely manage a server's BIOS. What technology should be used? RDP, SSH, VNC, out-of-band management, or TeamViewer? The correct answer is out-of-band management. Out-of-band management, like Intel, AMT, or ILO, allows remote access to a system's BIOS independently of the operating system. All right, next question. Which type of backup only backs up files that have changed since the last full backup? Is it full backup, incremental backup, differential backup, mirror backup, or copy backup? The correct answer is differential backup. A differential backup backs up all files that have changed since the last full backup. All right, next question. What does the SFC scan now command do? Scans for malware, checks disk for errors, updates device drivers, scans and repairs system files, or optimizes system performance? The correct answer, scans and repairs system files. The System File Checker, or SFC Scan Now, scans for and attempts to repair corrupted Windows system files. All right, next question. Which Windows edition supports joining an Active Directory domain? Is it Windows 10 Home, Windows 10 Pro, Windows 10 S, Windows 10 Mobile, or Windows 10 Home Single Language? The correct answer is Windows 10 Pro. Windows 10 Pro and higher editions support joining an Active Directory domain, while Home Edition does not. All right, next question. A user needs to connect to a corporate network securely from home. What should be configured? RDP, a VPN, proxy, DMZ, or port forwarding? The correct answer is a VPN. A VPN, also known as a virtual private network, creates a secure, encrypted connection over the internet to the corporate network. All right, next question. Which Windows utility is used to configure startup programs? Services.msc, regedit, Task Manager, Control Panel, or Device Manager? The correct answer is Task Manager. Task Manager's Startup tab allows users to enable or disable programs that run at Windows Startup. All right, next question. What is the default file extension for Windows batch files? Is it .exe, .com, .cmd, .vbs, or .bat? The correct answer is .bat. Batch files use the BAT extension and contain a series of commands that are executed sequentially. All right, next question. A technician needs to prevent users from installing unauthorized software. Which Windows feature should be configured? Windows Defender, User Account Control, Windows Firewall, Group Policy, or Device Manager? The correct answer is Group Policy. Group Policy allows administrators to restrict software installation through centralized management policies. All right, you guys are doing great so far. Let's keep going. Which command is used to display all active network connections and listening ports? Is it ping, ipconfig, netstat, tracert, or nslookup? The correct answer is netstat. The netstat command displays active TCP connections, ports on which the computer is listening, and network statistics. All right, next question. What is the purpose of Windows BitLocker? Is it encrypt network traffic, encrypt entire drives, compress files, create backups, or manage passwords? The correct answer is encrypt entire drives. BitLocker is a full disk encryption feature included with Windows that protects data by encrypting entire drives. All right, next question. Which type of malware appears legitimate but contains malicious code? Is it a virus, a worm, a Trojan, spyware, or ransomware? The correct answer is Trojan. A Trojan is malware that disguises itself as legitimate software in order to trick users into installing it. All right, next question. A user reports that their computer is running slowly. What should a technician check first? Hard drive capacity, RAM usage, CPU temperature, startup programs, or Windows updates? The correct answer is RAM usage. Checking RAM usage through Task Manager is often the quickest way to identify if memory is the bottleneck that's causing slow performance. All right, next question. Which of the following file systems supports file-level encryption? FAT32, XFAT, NTFS, FAT16, or HFS+? The correct answer is NTFS. NTFS, or New Technology File System, supports Encrypting File System, or EFS, for file-level encryption. All right, next question. A technician needs to deploy a standard configuration to 50 workstations. Which solution would be most efficient? Manual installation on each machine, cloning using disk imaging, Windows Easy Transfer, System Restore, or Recovery Partition? The correct answer is cloning using disk imaging. Disk imaging allows creating a master image that can be deployed to multiple machines quickly and consistently. All right, next question. Which Windows tool should be used to check for hard drive errors? Disk Cleanup, Disk Defragmenter, Check Disk, Disk Management, or Device Manager? The correct answer is Check Disk. Check Disk, or the command chkdsk, is used to check the file system and file system metadata for errors. And let's do one more question. A user is unable to access network resources, but they can access the internet. Which of the following is the most likely cause? DNS failure, incorrect gateway, incorrect subnet mask, DHCP failure, or network drive mapping issue? The correct answer is network drive mapping issue. If internet access works, but network resources are unavailable, the issue is likely with network drive mappings or permissions. And that is another round of Core 2 practice questions in the books. Nice work, everybody. Remember this, passing the A+ isn't about luck, it's about preparation. Aim to complete at least 600 to 1,000 practice questions before your exam day, and you will walk in with confidence. I've dropped the link to Skill Test Pro in the description down below and in the pinned comment so that you can keep practicing with their full question bank. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be tackling another round of CompTIA A Core 2 practice questions, perfect for anyone prepping for the 220-1202 exam. We're going to be using Skill Test Pro again, which offers realistic exam-style questions that cover everything from operating systems and security to software troubleshooting and IT procedures. If you're aiming to pass Core 2 with confidence, this is a great way to test your knowledge and sharpen your skills. So, let's jump right in. First question. A user complains that they are unable to install a new program due to administrator restrictions. What should the technician check? The power supply? Display drivers? Printer settings? Windows update status? Or user account permissions? The correct answer is user account permissions. If a user lacks administrator privileges, they may be blocked from installing new software. All right, question 2. A user needs to encrypt a sensitive file on their Windows system. Which built-in feature should they use? Disk cleanup? Task manager? BitLocker? Device manager? Or Windows Defender? The correct answer is BitLocker. BitLocker encrypts entire drives, while individual file encryption can be done through Windows Encrypting File System, or EFS. All right, question 3. A technician needs to revert a Windows PC to a previous working state without losing personal files. What tool should they use? System Restore? Disk Cleanup? Device Manager? Windows Firewall? Or Task Manager? The correct answer is System Restore. System Restore reverts system settings and installed programs to an earlier point without affecting user files. All right, question 4. A user reports that their Windows system is booting slowly. What is the most likely cause? A low monitor refresh rate? Too many startup programs? Incorrect printer driver? Overclocked CPU? Or a faulty graphics card? The correct answer is too many startup programs. Excessive startup programs can slow down the boot process by consuming system resources. All right, question 5. A Windows system is experiencing frequent crashes and displays a blue screen of death, or the BSOD. What should the technician check first? The printer queue? Windows firewall settings? Task scheduler? Event viewer logs? Or display settings? The correct answer is event viewer logs. Event viewer logs provide details about system crashes and errors, helping to diagnose the root cause of BSODs. All right, question 6. A user is unable to access a website, and the technician suspects a DNS issue. What command should they use to flush the DNS cache? Checkdisk/F, netstat-A, ipconfig/flushdns, msconfig, or task list? The correct answer is ipconfig/flushdns. Flushing the DNS cache can resolve connectivity issues related to outdated or incorrect DNS records. All right, question 7. A technician needs to change which programs launch at startup. What tool should they use? Device Manager? Disk Cleanup? Task Manager? Windows Defender? Or System Restore? The correct answer, Task Manager. The Startup tab in Task Manager allows users to enable or disable startup applications. All right, question 8. Which command line tool displays the IP address and network configuration of a Windows system? Is it ipconfig, checkdisk, SFC, msconfig, or netstat? The correct answer is ipconfig. The ipconfig command shows the system's network adapter configuration, including IP addresses and gateway settings. All right, question 9. A Windows system is running slowly, and the technician suspects malware. What's the first step they should take? Disable the firewall? Run a malware scan? Change the screen resolution? Replace the hard drive? Or restart the router? The correct answer is run a malware scan. A full malware scan can detect and remove malicious software that may be slowing down the system. All right, question 10. A user reports that their keyboard is typing the wrong characters. What's the most likely cause? Outdated display driver? A weak Wi-Fi signal? Low hard drive space? Incorrect keyboard layout? Or a disabled Windows firewall? The correct answer is an incorrect keyboard layout. A misconfigured keyboard layout can cause incorrect character input. All right, question 11. A technician suspects that a recent Windows update caused a system issue. What should they do? Reinstall Windows? Change the monitor resolution? Enable airplane mode? Disable Bluetooth? Or uninstall the update? The correct answer is uninstall the update. Removing the problematic update can restore system stability. All right, question 12. A technician needs to configure Windows updates to install automatically outside of business hours. Where should they go? Device Manager? Windows Update Settings? Task Manager? File Explorer? Or Event Viewer? The correct answer is Windows Update Settings. Windows Update Settings allow users to schedule updates for a specific time in order to avoid disruptions. All right, question 13. Which command can be used in Windows to check network connectivity? Is it dir, ipconfig, check disk, ping, or netstat? The correct answer, ping. The ping command tests network connectivity by sending packets to a specified IP address or host name. Question 14. A user is unable to access a shared network folder. What should the technician check first? The computer's power settings? The screen resolution? Folder permissions? The antivirus update status? Or the printer driver? The correct answer, folder permissions. Incorrect folder permissions can prevent users from accessing shared network resources. All right, question 15. A technician is setting up a new Windows PC for an employee. What should they do to enhance security? Enable automatic login? Disable Windows updates? Turn off the firewall? Set the screen resolution to maximum? Or create a standard user account? The correct answer is create a standard user account. A standard user account limits administrative privileges, reducing the risk of unauthorized system changes. All right, you guys are doing great. Let's keep going. Question 16. A user reports that their desktop icons and files have disappeared after a Windows update. What should the technician check first? The user profile settings? The display resolution? The Windows firewall rules? The power supply voltage? Or the keyboard layout? The correct answer is user profile settings. A corrupted or temporary user profile can cause files and settings to appear missing. Question 17. A Windows PC fails to boot and displays a missing or corrupt system files error. What should the technician check first? Replace the CPU? Run the System File Checker, or SFC? Change the screen resolution? Update the BIOS? Or install a new power supply? The correct answer is run the System File Checker, SFC. the SFC tool scans and repairs corrupted system files, which can help restore Windows functionality. All right, question 18. A technician needs to remotely assist a user with a Windows issue. Which built-in Windows tool should they use? Device Manager, Disk Cleanup, Remote Desktop, Windows Defender, or Task Manager? The correct answer is Remote Desktop. Remote Desktop allows a technician to remotely access and troubleshoot a user's computer. All right, question 19. A user reports that their computer is showing a "your connection is not private" error in the web browser. What is the most likely cause? Outdated mouse driver? Incorrect system date and time? Low screen resolution? Faulty power supply? Or disabled Windows Defender? The correct answer is incorrect system date and time. An incorrect date and time can cause SSL certificate validation errors, leading to security warnings in browsers. And question 20. A technician is troubleshooting a Windows PC that is stuck in a reboot loop after a failed update. What should they try first? Replace the hard drive? Reinstall Windows? Disable the firewall? Boot into safe mode? Or clear the browser cache? The correct answer is boot into safe mode. Safe mode allows Windows to load with minimal drivers and services, which can help resolve issues caused by a failed update. And that will wrap up this set of Core 2 practice questions. Awesome work getting through it, everybody. If you're serious about earning your A+ certification, well then keep practicing and reviewing the areas that challenged you. I've also dropped the link to Skills Test Pro in the description and in the pinned comment down below so that you can explore more practice tests and resources. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep pushing forward. You got this.